London, in the late 1890s. A city of contrasts where the old world met the new, and the shadows of the past intertwined with the promise of the future. Gaslight flickered on cobbled streets, casting an eerie glow that danced with the fog. The streets were alive with the whispers of secrets and the footsteps of those who dared to dream. A world of top hats and corsets where elegance and propriety masked the undercurrents of ambition and desire. The fashion of the time was a testament to the era's grandeur, yet it also concealed the struggles of those who wore it. Yet beneath this veneer of respectability, a darker magic brewed. In the hidden corners and shadowy alleyways, the true nature of the city revealed itself. It was a place where the extraordinary was possible and the impossible was within reach. In this world, two young magicians, Robert Angier and Alfred Borden, honed their craft. They were rivals. They were obsessed. They would become legends. Angier, the showman, with a flair for the dramatic and a hunger for the spotlight. Borden, the artisan, meticulous and driven by a relentless pursuit of perfection. Both were consumed by their art. Every waking moment was dedicated to the mastery of their illusions, the refinement of their performances, and the quest to outdo one another. But their rivalry was more than professional. It was deeply personal. Each saw in the other a reflection of their own fears and insecurities, a challenge that could not be ignored. It would twist their lives, their loves, and their very souls. The women they loved, the friendships they cherished, all would be tested and torn apart by their unyielding competition. This is their story, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the deadly pursuit of the impossible. In the end, their journey would lead them to the brink of madness, where the line between reality and illusion blurred, and the cost of their obsession became all too real. The rivalry began with tragedy, a tragedy that would forever alter the lives of two men. During a performance of a water tank escape, Angier's wife, Julia, tragically drowned. The audience watched in horror, unaware of the impending disaster. The knot, tied by Borden, was different. It was a more complex knot, one that Julia had insisted she could handle. Was it an accident, or a deliberate act of sabotage? The question lingered, casting a shadow over every interaction between the two men. The question hung heavy between them. It poisoned their relationship, turning colleagues into bitter enemies. Guilt and grief consumed Angier. He replayed the events of that night over and over in his mind, searching for answers. He blamed Borden for his wife's death, convinced that the unusual knot was the cause of the tragedy. Revenge became his only solace. Angier dedicated himself to ruining Borden, to making him pay for the loss of Julia. Borden, haunted by the incident, maintained his innocence. He insisted that the knot was safe, that Julia had agreed to it. But the seed of doubt was sown. Their rivalry escalated, each man determined to outdo the other, no matter the cost. It became a dangerous game of one-upmanship. Each performance was a new battleground, each trick a new weapon in their war. The stakes grew higher with each act, the risks more perilous. Their obsession with besting each other consumed them, blinding them to the dangers they faced. Time marched on, but the wounds of that fateful night never healed. The rivalry that began with tragedy would only end in more sorrow. Their careers diverged. Angier, with his wealth and charisma, became the great Danton. He commanded grand stages and captivated audiences. Borden, calling himself the Professor, opted for a grittier, more intimate style. He relied on raw talent and baffling illusions, but their rivalry continued. Each sought to expose and humiliate the other. Tricks were sabotaged, secrets were stolen. Each success fueled their animosity. The line between illusion and reality blurred. Their obsession became all-consuming. Borden debuted a new trick, the transported man. It was revolutionary, seemingly impossible. He appeared to teleport from one side of the stage to the other. Angier was baffled, consumed by envy. He had to know Borden's secret. Angier became obsessed with replicating the trick. He hired spies. He studied Borden's every move. He even endured a painful, imperfect imitation of the trick. But the true method eluded him. The mystery drove him to desperate measures. Section 5. Tesla's intervention, a spark of genius. Angier heard whispers of a reclusive genius, Nikola Tesla, a man who claimed to have harnessed electricity itself. He saw a solution, a way to surpass Borden. He sought out Tesla, believing he held the key to replicating the transported man. Tesla, initially reluctant, was intrigued by Angier's desperation. He agreed to build a machine that could defy the laws of nature. Angier, blinded by obsession, failed to see the true cost of Tesla's invention. Section 6. The machine replication and its price. The machine was a marvel, a terrifying testament to Tesla's genius. It could duplicate anything, but at a terrible price. Each use created a duplicate. One copy appeared elsewhere, while the other met a gruesome end. Angier, initially horrified, justified the sacrifice. He convinced himself that the duplicate was an acceptable loss. The applause, the adulation fueled his delusion. He had finally surpassed Borden, or so he thought. Section 7. Borden's sacrifice, a life divided. Unbeknownst to Angier, Borden harbored a secret that explained his impossible trick. He had a twin brother. They lived a shared existence, each taking on the persona of the professor for half their lives. It was a life of sacrifice, of hidden loves, of constant deception. But it allowed Borden to achieve the impossible, to dedicate himself fully to his art, and to keep his secret safe from prying eyes. Section 8. Angier's descent, consumed by envy. Angier, unaware of Borden's true method, became a prisoner of his own success. He lived in fear of exposure. He grew paranoid, suspecting everyone around him. The machine, once a tool of ambition, became a curse. He became a pale imitation of the showman he once was. The joy was gone, replaced by a gnawing emptiness. He had achieved his goal, but at what cost? He had become a monster. Section 9. The Frame, a murderous plot. The rivalry reached its climax. Angier, consumed by envy and paranoia, hatched a plan. A final desperate act to destroy Borden. He framed him for murder. Using his duplicate as a patsy, he set Borden up to take the fall. Borden, arrested for a crime he didn't commit, was left with an impossible choice: reveal his secret and save himself, or protect his brother and face the consequences. Section 10. The Prestige, the twin revealed. The trial was a media sensation. Angier, believing he had won, watched from the shadows, but Borden had one last trick up his sleeve. He revealed his twin. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Angier was stunned. His victory turned to ashes in his mouth. The truth of Borden's method, his sacrifice, was laid bare. Angier's obsession, his crimes, were all for nothing. He had been defeated by the very thing he craved, a truly dedicated artist. Section 11. The Final Act, Legacy of Illusion. In the world of magic, the final act is always the most crucial. It is the moment when the audience holds its breath, waiting for the impossible to become reality. In the end, both men paid a terrible price. Their rivalry, which had started as a quest for greatness, turned into a dark obsession. Each man was willing to go to any lengths to outdo the other, even if it meant sacrificing their own humanity. Angier, fatally wounded, died surrounded by his illusions. His life, once filled with the promise of wonder and amazement, ended in a tragic display of the very magic he sought to master. The props that once brought joy to audiences now stood as silent witnesses to his demise. Borden, though free, carried the burden of his brother's sacrifice. The weight of his twin's death was a constant reminder of the cost of their ambition. Every photograph, every memory, was tinged with the pain of loss and the price of their shared dream. Their rivalry, born of ambition and fueled by tragedy, had consumed them both. What began as a professional competition spiraled into a personal vendetta, leaving a trail of broken lives and shattered dreams in its wake. Cutter, Angier's former engineer, explained the true meaning of a magic trick. He revealed that the essence of magic was not in the trick itself, but in the dedication and sacrifice behind it. The audience sees the illusion, but the magician knows the reality. The prestige, the final act, was not the trick itself. It was the culmination of years of practice, the willingness to endure pain, and the readiness to give up everything for that one moment of awe. It was the willingness to sacrifice everything for the illusion. The true magic lay in the magician's ability to convince the audience that the impossible was possible, even if it meant losing a part of themselves in the process. Borden, reunited with his daughter, was left to grapple with this truth. The joy of holding his child again was overshadowed by the knowledge of what he had lost. The reunion was bittersweet, a reminder of the sacrifices made for the sake of illusion. He had won, but at a terrible cost. The victory felt hollow, as the price paid was far greater than the reward. In the quiet moments, alone with his thoughts, Borden pondered the true value of his triumph. The world would remember their names. The legacy of their rivalry would be etched in the annals of magic history. The applause of the crowd, the admiration of the audience, all stood as a testament to their dedication and skill. The magicians who cheated death, the masters of illusion. They had pushed the boundaries of what was possible, creating spectacles that defied belief. Their acts were legendary, their names synonymous with the art of magic, but only Borden knew the true price of their magic. Behind the curtain, away from the spotlight, he understood the sacrifices that had been made. The cost of their legacy was a burden he would carry forever, a reminder of the thin line between illusion and reality.